You know, yesterday I was with my family. I spent some time with my family, and it was funny. We were seemingly late. We had actually ordered the tickets to get in, so we had to rush to get there, right? And it was like almost just kind of out of thin air. I kind of blurted out because it was just what I was observing. Why is it whenever we're trying to go the fastest, that seems like we go slower? And I learned this thing a while back. Probably could have learned it sooner. Would have helped me when I was a bit younger, but driving the speed limit is more often than not going to give you a automatic green light at the next light, because that's how the system's programmed. And I have many analogies and connections I can make to this in many facets of life, because it's by design that we don't rush. If you look on the Bible, you don't see very many places where rushing is good, except for one place. There's only one place where it is good, and that is whenever you're fleeing from wickedness, or you're fleeing to Christ. When did this happen? There's a couple times I can recall, and much more. And in the instance of fleeing to Christ, it was whenever they had heard that Jesus was not dead. This was the reassembling of his sheep. It was a time of rejoicing. And it was so real, so extraordinary, that you just had to run to see what's going on. And I'm not sure what exact scripture, but in Proverbs it talks about how the wicked flee and nothing is chasing them. And I think it's the exact opposite of what you're hearing in this. And it's funny because, the perspective we were hearing it from, I believe it was Peter, but he got passed up, and he didn't get the first experience of seeing him and kind of the mysterious nature of that, because he didn't automatically reveal himself. But he missed out on nothing. I think if we truly believe in what we've been told, and remember it, we can never be out of time. We can never be in the wrong time. But this comes with wisdom, because although I could use it to theoretically push that I might have plot armor, and I do have a level of protection and grace, it's not to be abused, because although that might be part of a testimony. It might not necessarily be what had to happen. We must always keep our patience in check, or at least recognize it. Recognizing that weakness is ultimately what will bring us to a place of being healed. Because it's worry. We run because we worry. We worry about that person passing us and experiencing something that we didn't. I don't know why the sun is not out today. I don't know why the birds continue to chirp whenever I try to speak. But there's not really my place to think about. I can't understand the ways of the Lord. It'd be a pretty arrogant thing for me to think I could. But I can take advice and slow down just a little bit. Because although this life will try to get you to push the pedal, you might lose a pedal in the process. And beauty might become blemished. Because as you go faster, your sides blur around you. And so, being so eager for the future, you don't see the blessing in right now. I don't know what my future holds. I don't know what struggles that comes along with. But I'm a young man. I'm young. And as much as it's a chill setting, it's truly a great thing. But it also means it could be a fragile thing. God doesn't give sorrows to what we're blessed with. And at this age, I'm blessed with youth. I'm blessed with that time. And I recognize that time can be a very tricky thing at my age even. Because there always seems to be a constraint. There always seems to be something that's in and out. And I think that's kind of the parallel I can draw in the most practical way of what we create with our hands, what people have made throughout time. It's not much different. If you look at the most long-suffering things, the most timeless things, they took patience. The Bible being written itself, it's been preserved because it puts something on you. But at the same time, it has no rush or worry. If you look all throughout it, its inner beings is good for you and possibly bitter, but it's good. And in my mind, I draw this connection to this new dairy product I'm trying. It's called kefir, and it has a sort of bitter taste. It's almost like yogurt, but it's a complete protein. In short words, it just means that it's the building blocks to the proteins for my body to rebuild itself, regenerate any dead cells, and revive anywhere it's dead. And that's the probiotics in it that's doing that, giving me good stomach health. And that's something that's kind of been an issue for me. But, you know, we're working at it patiently. I think that's part of what grace is. You know, I heard this a while ago. That Jesus, God, same thing. There's a certain word they use, basically saying he's long-nosed. And that means is he's slow to anger. You know, his nose doesn't get super hot. And I don't know if I'm like anybody else, but tension begins in the face. Usually when you're upset, the first place that it shows is in your face. That spider found its way to me. I told God to hang out with me, but I'm sorry that I gave him the spot with the spider. Was that a spider at all? I don't know. Right now, I could even be aware that my mind's rushing to get to the point. Because we're in such a quick world. I mean, we have inventions for quickness and practicality. But it's always overshadowed by something that's quicker. There's always something that's quicker, better, easier, more efficient. But there's something timeless. Each moment, there's something that's timeless. If we could just look out for it. And if you're young like me, it might be that very thing. I don't hate to wake up in the morning. I'm not too concerned with my health. Looks like I have a mission to do. I guess I'll take you with me. I don't want to be on my video and drive, though. I'll cut it pretty short today, because I think that's all I really want to say. And it's why I still hold on to the Sabbath as best as I can. I'm not perfect about it, but I recognize that it's a foundation that God set up from the beginning of the world, that this is a day to rest. You know, I think he made it a point that we should rest on this day. I don't understand why he needs to rest, considering he's God. But there's a purpose to it. I don't know it. You know, he can give me a glimmer of what it is, but, you know, I'm sure if we all conjoined our brains together, we'd still probably have just like a little flashlight compared to him. You know, we're continuing to get brighter, and we'll have all eternity to get brighter, and we'll see God for who he truly is one day. And that's amazing and confounding. It really is. Like, I could imagine the deep breath I'll take, like not a deep breath, like I'm like I might hold a little tension there. Like I'm not anxious, but I'm taken back, I'm sure, because seeing God for who he truly is, like, huh? But I recognize that when we rush, something is on the other end. You know what I'm saying? I think there's something on the other end of that that is like a countermeasure against us, our rushing, against our anxiety. We think we're getting ahead in some way, but in other ways, we're netting in the negative. You know, I might be scoring a bunch of buckets on the basketball court, but I'm tired on defense. I'm rushing the scores. We're not being patient. We're not passing the ball. Maybe that works all season, but there comes a point where it shows. And we're all going to have that. We're going to have moments in our life where we're going to see what shows. See what our work has put forth. And it's up to us to go back and be honest, transparent with ourselves. That there was ways we could have went another way. We could have been a little more open-minded, possibly. You know, I know a lot, like, about, what I specifically do. But to the outside, it seems as if a very simple thing. It's very simple, I'm a trainer. And, I'd probably say my specialty is getting people to run fast in simple terms, but you can't rush that. And it's one basic principle, and maybe the Holy Spirit will take the alley-oop before I could even tell you what it is. You might just already understand it before I even tell you. But my idea is, and from what I've experienced, is the harder you're trying to go faster, the slower you become. The more you hold on to your life, the faster it flees. The goal to running is pushing back, getting your legs behind you, and just leaning over and letting gravity do the work. Where are we told to let gravity do the work? In faith. Taking leaps of faith. We're constantly passing the baton each day that we complete. And of course, there's something to accomplish in that. We're constantly passing the baton. And over time, we have to learn to become more efficient, more focused on our form. Because although we sprint through the day, we rest and run another day. Therefore, it's a sprint race with an endurance race. And there's many amazing stories you hear about endurance. With strength, there's not much room that I know of, at least, for pushing past what your capability might be, in a sense. because you're working with high capacities and you're dipping into just a very limited area. But when you run, it is actually, so there's two different kinds of strength. There's absolute strength. That's, those high reps that make you look cool in the gym. And then, there's low reps that make you look cool in the gym when you got a bunch of weight on the sides, and then that's absolute strength. And then there's general strength. That's doing a bunch of reps of something, a bunch of repetitions. And when you run, you're actually working the exact same muscles as if you were in the gym. Same muscles. For general strength, same muscles. The only difference is I can run until I literally rip my muscles off the bone like a chicken wing. But there's something to be understood from that in endurance. The way to get more endurance is not to run fast. Although that is a part of it, the biggest part to it is walking and running slow. Running slow. I'm getting ahead of myself. And that's something. Getting ahead of myself when I'm talking about rushing. But when I run slow, my endurance is increased more. When I walk, I burn more fat. You see a lot of people, they start the year off and I'm going to go running every day. It doesn't work. They burn themselves out. Instead of working up to that, we become impatient and we decide, you know what? Throw me in the ring with Muhammad Ali. Whenever we're supposed to be like David fighting the animals in the field. Maybe not even that, because dude was fighting all kinds of crazy wildlife. But the slowest things are for our most benefit. Part of that might even be, in our diet too. Whenever you want quick energy, you go get some candy or something that's gonna, at least if I'm talking from just like a default standard, you're not really thinking about nothing, you don't know nothing about health. And what I've learned is what that does is it spikes your glucose. And then what happens is it actually dips below what you were originally at very quickly. And so you're hungry again. And then you're gaining weight. And then you're going outside and maybe trying to push, running 2 miles as fast as you can, so you're about to pass out. So you continually become hungry because those calories are empty and they're negative to your body. Versus whenever I eat a vegetable, it still has glucose in it, but that glucose levels out back to where I originally was. And that's over time. The curve is a lot more smooth. So, the fastest way to make things happen in life is by slowing down. Slowing way down. Looking around. Taking in the scenery. Your sensories. I think there's one thing we can learn sometimes from what we generally say. We don't know how deep some of our words go in our thoughts because of how often they come. I scroll on my screen and I'm looking at all this information and stuff happening in the world. It can create that urgency in my brain. It can create and form thoughts and opinions and comparisons very quickly. And it's part of the reason I limit it on my phone. You know, whatever the conviction is for each, to each his own. There's a lot of things that we can work on and progress in. But, you know, I gotta enjoy this. You know, when you rush and you binge watch a TV show, it's not the best feeling afterwards when you finish. You're kind of like, dang. And, you know, it's the same way with things we acquire in life. Like, it could be kind of like, dang, this didn't make me happy, or whatever empty feeling that brings about. And I was watching the Bob Marley movie specifically, and it seemed almost like him and his wife had this genuine love, yet both of them weren't happy in a relationship. Because although Bob had a lot of things correct in his mentality and God, and I do recommend you watch it, because it gets you to think a little bit. It's not some movie that's all in your face, but it's real. It's as real as life gets. And one thing that's very valuable is to see from somebody's shoes, because me and him are no different from each other. Not by much. We're talking small amounts of difference in one to the next. It's not much difference. Nobody's really made special unless it's by God himself. Of course, we were made special, but we have a list of instructions for how to do this thing, for how to last long in being the special thing in being that we are. You know, if you buy a BMW, they say you need to read the instructions, right? Because a lot of time you hear about BMWs, it's like, man, the maintenance, and they just don't last, right? But, you know, they say in the manuals that if you treat the car this way, then this will be what happens. And the Bible's a great place to start with that. The Holy Spirit, just as great. Jesus, God the Father, they're all there to help us, and we don't have to fully understand that, because, like I said, we don't need to know completely the work of God. We don't need to know everything. It's okay to be ignorant in some levels. Of course, we want to seek knowledge, ask for understanding and wisdom, and continue to be humble at his feet. But ultimately, we need him and his instructions. We need guidance, as we are his children, carrying on from what I was saying before. When I slow my breathing down and I take deeper breaths, more power is generated into me. And even the same with power. When I'm still, when I do a thing called isometric, when I freeze, I'm getting 5 times more gains versus the gym. The gym is great, but it isn't everything. Sometimes we need stillness. Now, sometimes we do need the gym. It just depends on your progression. But stillness is the first step for us. So I think it's the way we're designed. Be still and know that I'm God. That's what he says in his word. And I take that very literal, because it means don't worry about everything. Stop trying to be God. Stop trying to rush the time. Stop trying to rush your legs. Do what I've told you. Run like I've told you. Don't try to go faster, but instead, relax. Let your face drop. Move your legs. And just snap them underneath you. Anticipate what's to happen without rushing it. So that means to be active, but don't get caught up, you know? I can't say I'm perfect at this, but I'm gonna get better for sure, you know? And that's kind of where it's tricky, because you got to recognize that, like, falling short is considered sin. So it's like, that's the, definition. As much as I kind of don't like that, because I've attached sin to being just like, oh, you're dirty in the sight of God, which I am, but that's not really, it just means falling short. Jesus has made me clean. So there's grace in that. I'm not trying to abuse it, but I'm trying to reconcile myself and my ways back to what his original design was, until he comes back. Maybe it won't be such a shock for me to see him as much as it should be, right? It probably still gonna shock me. I mean, not even probably, it will. I know it will. And that's a great and terrible thing, because, man, he's gonna come back, and I'm not gonna be one to even try to boast. I don't want to, because I think I will have wished that everybody got saved, and that the things that were said didn't come to pass the way they did, because I'll have some attached faces to the words that I see that speak of the wrath of God, and it'll be people I have known, and I'll be upset, not thinking I'm a failure, but upset at what has happened, and examining myself, just as I do at the end of each day, at the end of this life. And then I'll have eternity after that. I have it now, but I think it's still something that I must remain in a humble place to continue to put one leg in front of the other and relax about it, but be violent about it. Running is violent, but there's multiple ways to do this. There's multiple ways to swing a hammer, to strike into a nail. And ultimately, I know these two things, that gravity is going to fall the way it falls. The pieces will fall the way they fall, because the word has written about it. God has told us he has plans for us to prosper us. So as long as I fall forward and push one leg back, I'm going to run. And I'm going to be still. And I'm going to walk. And I'm going to endure. And I'm going to race. And I'm going to be resisted. And all these things are going to come together for my good. I'm going to do the right thing. And a few times, hopefully, I do the wrong thing. That judgment may not be unbearable on the day that I see him. I hope not to catch anybody in a place where they don't want to see God. They're essentially a dog that's made a terrible mistake that they can't undo, wishing that they could. It's through each decision. It's leading up to it. And we're going to be continually warned, because God is slow to punish. He's not in a rush. So you shouldn't be either. I I added something to you. And if it does not, please disregard. I'm human. And much more than that. But it's possible to have air at any time. I always have something to add. I wanted to make this video short, but here I am with the extension. I don't know if my videos will ever be shorter than 30 minutes, but I hope you're able to hold on to what's good today. There might be more pain in our lives than there are going to be enjoyment. So anytime you find yourself in some enjoyment, man, embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace the moment. Just embrace it all. Find joy in whatever way you can.